Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. On behalf of Devcom Center for Geopolitical Studies, this is Munir Ahmed, and we have a keynote speaker today, Senator Mushahid Hussain, who is a former Minister for Information and Education. He is the chairperson of Pak-China Institute and also a president of Pakistan Africa Institute for Research and Development. Thank you so much, Mushahid Hussain, for gracing the occasion today. And he will be delivering his keynote speech on challenges for Pakistan in the changing geopolitical scenarios. At the moment, as we see, there are several geopolitical scenarios. We will have a panel of 3 experts, including Dr. Zainab, who is assistant professor and research fellow, BNU Center for Policy Research. And then we have Dr. Khushboo Ejaz, associate professor of international relations at Kinnaird College for Women, and Dr. Mahmood Al-Hassan Khan, executive director, Center for South Asia and International Studies. Thank you, experts, for joining the webinar. And the format is, after the keynote speech, these experts will cross-question to the keynote speaker and try to explore different propositions of the scenarios, and then we will be able to come to certain recommendations. And afterwards, when the experts will be asking the questions, then other participants can also put up their question, whatever they have. Even we always welcome wild questions as well, so no problem. This is an open forum. Senator Sahab, Senator Mushahid Hussain Sahab, can you go ahead for your keynote speech?
Thank you so much, Munir Sahab, and a very warm welcome to the entire audience, as well as to the distinguished panelists who are there with me, Dr. Mahmood Sahib, Dr. Zainab Saiba, Dr. Khushboo Ejaz Saiba, and it's a pleasure to be discussing issues which are so relevant for Pakistan and the region that we are located, because what we are seeing is that huge geopolitical changes are taking place. And I would like to focus on 3 core changes that are taking place, which are having an impact on Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing that the global center of gravity is shifting from the west to the east. And there's a transition from the American century, which started after World War II, and which I would say ended on 15th August 2021, when American forces left Kabul and handed over to the Afghan Taliban in a failed quest to stop the Taliban from returning to power. And the 3 trends that I like to talk about is, number 1, the retrenchment of Western power, of American power, of Western clout and interests and image, and especially in the context of the Gaza genocide, where the West has fully supported Israel in its crimes against humanity, and they've lost support among global public opinion, especially in the global South. So a decline of the West is there, and that decline is very evident, and the power balance is shifting from the West to the East. The second new reality is the dawn of the Asian century and the rise of China, which is a monumental development. And this has been also now documented in various publications. Recently, The Economist had a cover story, China, the scientific superpower. And they said that the old science order dominated by Japan, the US, the European Union, and the UK has come to an end. Among the top 10 universities on science and technology, China has 6 of them. China leads in the production of papers, original research papers on artificial intelligence. And I was recently reading the study of the Harvard University, led by Professor Graham Allison. And this is on the internet also, you can find it, the great tech rivalry, China versus the United States. And the Harvard study says China is overtaking the United States in high-tech manufacturing. And out of 193 member states of the United Nations, 130 have more trade with China than they have with the US. Out of the Fortune 500 companies, China leads with 142 companies, followed by the US. So in different areas, especially science and technology, China is leading. And out of the 64 critical technological areas that have been documented, China is leading in 53 of those 64 areas. So there is this global power shift, which is very evident. The retrenchment of Western influence, the rise of China, and then we unfortunately also see the resurgence of a Cold War mindset led by the United States, led by the West, and they're talking of Asian NATO. They have established Quad, which is Australia, India, Japan, and the US. They have established AUKUS, Australia, UK, US. NATO now says China is also a threat. And so this world we are seeing is witnessing transformation also, which I've just mentioned, but turbulence also. The war, the genocide in Gaza is reshaping the Middle East, and lines are already drawn, and also the war in Ukraine, you can find it, that again, there's a new Cold War evident there also. So in that context, we also see in our region some major changes taking place. I think that the recent revolution in Bangladesh, I would call it a revolution because it overthrew an entrenched dictatorship that had been backed by India, and that has now ceased to exist. That provides for new opportunities for countries in the region to collaborate closely. And we're also seeing two important regional summits that are going to take place. One is being hosted by Pakistan, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in mid-October in Islamabad. The other one is a little later, part of October. It's called the BRICS Summit in Kazan in Russia. And incidentally, I'll also be going to the BRICS conference, which is being convened in Moscow just before the summit. And I'm the only Pakistani to be invited, the first Pakistani. The Pakistan is not yet a member. But you see, these are the foundations, the building blocks of an alternate global order, where regionalism is a key element, multipolarity is a key element, working in a multilateral framework is a key element, and it's all about connectivity. And it's also being pushed and promoted by China through the Belt and Road Initiative, of which CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, is the pillar. So this is a very important context that on one side, we see a narrative of China, Russia, and other countries in the region, which focus on trade and connectivity and cooperation, economy, energy, ports, pipelines, road, railways. And on the other side, we see the Americans still having a security-centric worldview and talking of a new Cold War, talking of containment of China. And for Pakistan, it's very important that where we are located, this is the center stage in terms of the global power competition, in terms of connectivity, and at the crossroads of Asia. Pakistan has China on one side, India on the other side, the South Asian countries, and we also have Central Asian countries, and we also have Iran and Afghanistan, and to our south, we have the Gulf countries. So in that context, Pakistan, in my view, has strategic space. And this strategic space has to be utilized for Pakistan to pursue a more autonomous foreign policy with out-of-box initiatives also in different areas. Why do I call it that we have a strategic space? After 42 years, the Afghan war has ended. So there's no foreign intervention as of now in Afghanistan, although Afghanistan is still a little bit unstable because of terrorism. A lot of the terrorism emanates from there, but that requires a regional approach. The Iran-Saudi Arabia rapprochement brokered by China means there's no Iran-Saudi proxy war. And then we have CPEC. CPEC is the path to geoeconomics, providing for connectivity. The landlocked countries of Central Asia like Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan want to be land-linked through Pakistan, through the port of Gwadar. So that is also an important opportunity. Then next door in India, after the election in India, Modi, who was is more chastened. He doesn't have a majority in his government. He has to rely on two partners, Chandrababu Naidu and Nitish Kumar, both of whom are, I would say, friendly towards Pakistan, not inimical like the BJP and the RS crowd that has been dominating India. And after the loss of Bangladesh, where India has suffered a previous blow, because in Bangladesh they had an investment in us, and through the regime of Hasina Wajid, I think that's been a major blow to the Indian assets and interests there. So there are new openings and opportunities. Pakistan needs to have a regional reset, and that regional reset means taking CPEC forward, revitalizing CPEC through China. Secondly, also building the gas pipeline with Iran. Thirdly, with Afghanistan, we should open up the Wakhan corridor. They already are building through the 50-kilometer route through that road. And that is important for connectivity among four countries, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, and China. So we have to take that forward. And also have a more proactive South Asia policy, especially with Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and the Maldives, because our focus has been a little elsewhere. We are not focused on the region very strongly. And thirdly, we should also have strategic clarity on India, because as long as India is not willing to even engage with Pakistan, there's no need for Pakistan to talk about opening up trade links or opening up other links, because it's a non-starter. And we should have strategic clarity on both these key issues, which are important for Pakistan and for the region also. One is the issue of Kashmir, and the other issue of Palestine, on which Pakistan has a consistent principled position, a position that was first enunciated by the father of the nation, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And I think our focus also should be on regionalism, especially now that SAARC has been virtually put in the cold storage thanks to India. And there's been no SAARC summit for the last 8 years. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization is an important platform. And the BRICS, which I'm going to attend on 23rd September, the BRICS Forum in Moscow, where I've been invited to deliver a speech. It's very key because it focuses on what I call the 3 Ds. It talks of democratization of the international order, not based on the hegemony or diktat of one superpower, because it talks of multipolarity in a multilateral framework. It talks of demilitarization of international relations. It is not focusing on building up new blocks, building up a Cold War mentality, expansion of NATO. It talks of connectivity through economic cooperation and trade and investment. And thirdly, it also talks of de-dollarization, which is very important because 68 out of 193 countries in the United Nations have now said they are willing to trade in currencies other than the dollar, which means rupees, rial, rand, RMB, rubles, and so forth. So in this new world that is opening up, Pakistan has tremendous opportunities. And I feel for the next 10 years, 5 Muslim middle powers will play a key role. Pakistan, Indonesia, Iran, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia in their respective domains. Because we have already moved to a multipolar world where no single pole dominates. When the 21st century began after 9/11, it was a unipolar world. And then it is now shifting inexorably. So I would conclude on that note that there are huge opportunities for Pakistan to take this forward. But the biggest challenge for Pakistan is domestic. We need a healing touch at home. We have had unending political squabbles, political conflicts, that in the last 7 years, we have had 7 prime ministers. And I think this kind of situation cannot continue indefinitely. And in that context, we also feel that apart from giving a country a healing touch, we also need to have a new foreign policy outlook that is based on the region interests. Because otherwise, we just end up looking at the IMF, which is a tried, tested, and failed formula. And finally, Pakistan can not be part of any new Cold War. We reject that notion because we have already suffered after 9/11. We are seeing the anniversary of 9/11 coming up. It has been devastating and debilitating for most of the Muslim countries because most of Fatah, region of Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen were devastated after 9/11. The US squandered $6.5 trillion in the so-called war on terror, and they threw in 324,000 bombs, missiles, and drones. These are not my figures. These are figures of the Brown University in the United States. So given this context, the path forward is there. Allama Iqbal had said 90 years ago, and I would end on that. Dekh mashriq se ubarte hue suraj ko dekh. See the sun rising in the east. The sun is already rising. The Asian century is dawning. And the second prediction he made, which has turned out true, is kara khab chini sambarne lage. Himala ke chashme ubalne lage. Gaya daur sarmaya dari gaya. Tamasha dikha ke madari gaya. The rise of China, which is the first non-white, non-Western power to challenge Western hegemony. So we are on the right side of history, and we should remain on the right side of history, because the history beckons us to be part of the Asian century, to build a better tomorrow for Asia and the humanity without overlords and without underdogs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Mushahid Hussain Saab, for your wonderful points to ponder and giving a scenario that really built up, a good background for discussion. Let me, ask first question. While we are celebrating Defense Day, and today is the Air Force Day, and tomorrow will be the Navy Day, and yesterday was the Army Day. What do you see, and it is to all the experts, that in terms of our defense capacity, where we stand, while there is a lot of propaganda against the institutions. This is the first part. And the issues that we are facing is more of economy. Our economy is driving down, nosedived, and there are all the measures, whatever we try to take, goes in vain. In the meanwhile, while we are trying to strike a deal with IMF, our friends, those who are referred to, will be emerging as one of the five powers. They are also not able to. So these are the two phenomena. I believe they have nexus as well. What is your take, Mushahid Saab? And then I would request my panel of experts to raise their questions.
Thank you. I will take your question in two parts. The first referring to the Defense of Pakistan Day and what are the lessons, because that day India launched a war of aggression against Pakistan on 6th of September 1965. And the second part is about issues of economy and domestic stability. Taking the first question first, I think 6th of September 1965 was probably one of Pakistan's finest hours. As a small country, we resisted Indian aggression. We got the better out of them. We were taken by surprise. And the people and the armed forces were united as one. So it was an expression of national unity. It was an expression of valor, of resilience and determination, and a country that raises its head and is willing to fight for the motherland. Very positive lesson. That's number one. The second one lesson is of 65 war, that we had wrong assumptions going into the war. And unfortunately, those assumptions were also seen 40 years later in 1999 in Kargil, because the assumption was that whatever we might do, India would not respond. So I think that our diplomatic and military assumptions were proven incorrect. So we have to get the readings right. And this was the same flawed assumptions that led to the disaster in Kargil. So I think there are two lessons. One is the lesson of national unity, resilience, and if people and the armed forces are one, we can meet any challenge. The second lesson is that we should have a realistic assessment of the situation and not be taken by surprise and not have flawed assumptions. On the second part of the economy, Munir Saab, sir, I humbly beg to differ. The main issue is not economy. The main issue is political stability. Economy is an offshoot. Economy is a man-made problem. It is based on wrong policies. It is based on corruption. It is based on failure to take tough decisions. And we end up, the easy way option is going to the IMF, which is a tried, tested, and failed formula. We know what is the, you only go to the IMF when you are seriously sick, when you're in the ICU. And since we feel we'll get a bailout. But the main issue is, as long as you do not have political stability, you do not have a healing touch, you do not have a harmony among the political forces, you do not have rules of the game, this unending quest for kursi, of power, and this tussle, this conflict, this confrontation is going to ensure that we will neither have political stability at home, nor will our economy stabilize. I'll just give you one figure from Dawn. Dawn, a newspaper, has reported, and this was in May 2024, that in the last 2 years, 22,000 Pakistanis have invested $11 billion in Dubai. 22,000 Pakistanis have invested $11 billion in Dubai. Why is that investment not coming in our own country? Because people do not have that confidence because of lack of stability. So the core issue is stability. And as I mentioned, we have created a world record of 7 prime ministers in 7 years from 2017 and 2024. Probably we were almost beaten by the British, but now they have a new government. So I think that this is the way forward. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Khushboo, Ejaz Saiba.
Assalamu alaikum. Very good points highlighted by Senator Mushahid Hussain Sayyid. I just want to add few things that he has very eloquently described our external relations or different geopolitical factors outside Pakistan. I just want to ask, and I would like to make this point to this August gathering, that there are different internal issues which we are facing. And because of political instability and because of economic issues, because of energy crisis, and because of lack of checks and balances, because different institutions are not working in their constitutional role. So the people are really suffocated here. Our youth is very much disappointed. And above all, so population is a very strong element as far as when you are going to analyze political geography of any country. So I think that here the role of when we talk about geopolitics and the critical geopolitics, 3 T's are important. So our territory, television, and telecommunication side. So in the current time frame, we are facing problems regarding cyber warfare, regarding 5th generation warfare, and major issue is the separatist movements which are going on. So with very weak governance system, and with the lack of credibility of your political institutions, and where your elections are questionable as well. So people are really very disappointed, and they are asking about the legitimacy of these institutions, and as far as political stability is concerned. So if people are not happy, if there are so many real issues regarding the liberty and freedom of rights of the public. So I think that as Mushahid Hussain Sayyid has said, that Pakistan has a very good options in this current geopolitical scenario. I think that we have to set our house in order first, and we have to work on these issues, and we have to tackle each and every internal issue with the great, you can say, coordination among different forces, our parliamentarians, our different political parties have to come to negotiating table for certain things, because this is the only way forward. Because if we have one voice, it will be better for us to talk international community with strength. So another thing, you have rightly pointed out that the world is changing, and we, Pakistan, can explore its opportunities. But as far as CPEC is concerned, what actually we are doing? We are not taking care of Chinese concerns, and even we are not that much ready to pay back which they have invested in our country. So there are many things which are important to discuss over here. As far as IMF is concerned, as far as FATF and other pressures which US is putting on Pakistan regarding our nuclear and other issues. So we are actually having lots of, we are facing, you can say, coercive diplomacy from our past, you can say, friend or US, and we are facing problems as far as Chinese friends as well. So we are not having.
Dr. Saba, thank you very much for setting the context. Do you have anything to ask that what Mushahid साहब said, कि उसमें कोई अगर आप कोई किसी और एंगल से कोई बात पूछना चाहें या करना चाहें, वो क्योंकि ये तो जाहिर है कि all these internal issues we all know, कि जो इस वक्त जो पॉलिटिकल सिनेरियो के हिसाब से हमारा जो एक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू रखा है मुशाहिद साहब ने, उसमें आप किसी और एंगल के ऊपर आप चाहें तो, या मुशाहिद साहब से कोई बात पूछना चाहें, अनम्यूट करना है जी आपने, प्लीज अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ.
Okay. I just want to ask that with the Quad and with AUKUS and with the I2U2, where you see that Pakistan can achieve its national security interest in the region, where US is investing a lot in India and they have very strong partnership with India. So how we are going to tackle this situation? And this is my question.
जी मुशाहिद साहब.
Thank you, Dr. Khushboo. You know, we have been on this path once before, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, when we started the opening to China. And in the 60s, at that time, China was opposed, not just by the United States, but also by the Soviet Union. And we stuck to our guns. After the 65 war, when President Ayub Khan went to Washington, I think it was November 65, we had a meeting with President Johnson. And President Johnson was very unhappy because we had an alliance with America, and he felt that Pakistan, in his view, was flirting with China. And flirtation at that time was considered a very bad word, that, oh, you are flirting with the Chinese communists who are our enemies. And to his credit, President Ayub said very clearly, look here, Mr. President, he told Johnson, if we have a break with the US, we'll damage our economy. But if we have a break with China, we'll damage our country. That was the bottom line. And as far as interests are concerned, Dr. Saba, the US National Security Strategy, which was announced on 12th of October, 2022, and you might have seen it, it's also on the internet. What does it say? It says two core things. There's no mention of Pakistan in that US National Security Strategy. It says India is the most closest of the strategic partner of the United States. And China is the most serious challenge and threat to the United States. So our best friend is their enemy and our worst enemy is their friend. So we should stand with those countries who stand with Pakistan. Who stands with Pakistan on all issues like a rock? I think China does. And what China can provide, I don't think the US can provide in terms of political support, diplomatic support. I jokingly say China provides us diplomatic air cover. Wherever we don't have a voice, they are our voice. UN Security Council, FATF, G20 nuclear suppliers group, China is there to speak for you. So it's as simple as that. We don't have to be either or, but we should have strategic clarity that who are going to be by our side on all issues. And that is one country, People's Republic of China.
Thank you so much. Dr. Mahmood Hassan Khan Sahab has to leave for another conference. And sorry, Dr. Zainab, you have raised your hand. But since Dr. Mahmood has to leave, and I would request him to unmute himself as Dr. Mahmood. I think he has already left. Dr. Zainab.
No issue. I can speak after Dr. Mahmood.
Dr. Mahmood, I think he has already left. I can't see him on the screen. Okay. So, Dr. Zainab, please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Munir sir. And I would.
आपकी आवाज थोड़ी सी कम आ रही है.
जी, am I audible now?
It's better. It's better.
Okay, thank you very much, Munir sir, and also I appreciate you to putting us in a fix to let us speak in front of Senator Mushahid Hussain sahab, जिनको मैं तो अपनी पूरी स्कूल टाइम में हमेशा बड़े शौक से सुनती थी, and it was my greatest wish that I would ever be able to speak like him. He is certainly the master of oration. And I would always see and notice कि हमेशा उनका बहुत कम ऐसे experts हैं कि जो इस तरह अपने points हमेशा different लाएं, and who have always who are up to date on all the issues. So पहला challenge तो ये geopolitics तो बाद में आती है, ये पहला challenge है मेरी. दूसरा, before going forward with my question, Mushahid Saab, in my very humble capacity, I would try to understand a few things, and I will put forward my view in front of you, and I would really, really appreciate if you make me correct wherever I am needed. What I understand now as student of international relations and politics, that geopolitics is now more driven by geoeconomics. And whatever the issues around us, the challenges around us, and the realities you have rightly mentioned and explained, they all are based more on the geoeconomics. And if I take it one step ahead, I think it is more geostrategic. Like if we talk about China, what we are doing and what we have done in CPAC and the pace we are taking it forward and the challenges we have put in front of China to deal with us. I think that still China is bearing with us and still China is ready to invest in us is probably due to its strategic interests in the region. And secondly, when we talk about the borders and issues in politics, I do understand that now borders are, certainly their territorial borders are very important, but borders now lie somewhere else too. The borders of ideas, ideological borders, cyber borders, they are very important. Economic borders, I would also say. So they are very important, and these are the issues in which we lag behind, and we need to understand a lot. One, this thing. And the second is that, as you mentioned about US-China competition, and US is trying its best to drag China behind in areas of military competition where it deems that China still is trying to move with more force, because in other areas China has achieved much, but it's the US reckoning that China still has to take a lot. It needs a lot to do in military domain. So if they try to drag China into Taiwan war or any conflict in Taiwan, what do you think, what are the challenges for Pakistan and this region in particular in case of any issue in Taiwan around us? For this, I would really request Mushahid Saab to comment on this and then on other issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zainab Sahaba, and thank you for your kind words. It's a pleasure to be discussing with such a distinguished company. I'll start with your last comment or question first, which is on Taiwan. It's very interesting that the Harvard University has conducted a study, a war game, if you will, under Professor Graham Allison. Graham Allison, Allison, very famous professor, the Kennedy School. And they had 5 different war scenarios between, now this is an academic exercise, a war game. US versus China on Taiwan, hypothetical. And in 5 different scenarios, according to Harvard University, the United States loses all the 5 times to China. The reason is the US has never won a land war in Asia. Korean War from 50 to 1953 was a stalemate. Vietnam from 63 to 1975, Laos and Cambodia, they lost. After 9/11, Afghanistan and Iraq, they lost. So the US has never won a land war. And I do not see a war there because I think that while the US is still, in terms of military strength, probably the most powerful country, they have the budget of $884 billion, which is 3 times the defense budget of China. They have military superiority, but I think that military might does not necessarily translate into technological prowess that can dominate or subordinate China. Because as I mentioned, on science and technology, in certain areas, China is now ahead of the United States. So I think there is not going to be any war. At least I don't see it in the next 10 years or so. China is focused on economic development, and but the US is trying to provoke them. And if you notice the US narrative, that when Russia invaded Ukraine, they said now China will do the same thing. They wanted to push China. But China is not a country. China is a civilization. And Chinese have strategic patience. That's why they have this patience with Pakistan also, despite difficulties. And they have the patience at the global level. And they are, when the US was fighting in after 9/11, squandering $6.5 trillion, at the same time, the Chinese spent $2 trillion under the Belt and Road Initiative in 3,000 different projects in Asia, Africa, Latin America, Europe, and Middle East. So that is the difference. And coming to this issue of this borderless world, absolutely. The world is now being shaped by ideas, issues, and initiatives, and science and technology, and also the battle of narratives. So in terms of ideas, in terms of soft power, in terms of what you have to be able to sell. That is why the Americans feel that China is overtaking them. And that is why there are serious attempts to demonize China, to damage China, to destabilize China. And information warfare has been launched. The US Congress passed a Strategic Competition Act 2 years ago. Under that, there is a $300 million Countering China Influence Fund, which is used to damage China. And finally, about geoeconomics and geopolitics. Yes, geoeconomics is very important, but geopolitics or geostrategy is still the key component, because despite, for example, China-India trade over 125 billion, despite US-China trade, which is over 650 billion, the issues of geopolitics, the issue of geostrategy are still predominant in their relationship. Thank you.
Mushahid sir, my question is, when we talk about borderless world and the soft image and so many things, we have a very rich culture. And as you know, you always refer China. China has a very dominant culture, and they have a very cultural connections and cultural celebration everywhere in the world. And on the other hand, our neighboring country, Nepal and India, they also believe in, despite having rich cultural and heritage of Pakistan, and it is the most neglected one, then how we would compete to those people who are, proactively engaging other nations on culture. Secondly, the ICT, when the internet is down and you cannot put any post on X and use the social platforms, and instead of engaging those who are violating the rules of the game on the cyber world, we have stopped everything, everyone to use it. So your comment, and what could be the strategy basically, or what step Pakistan should take?
I'll take your very important question in two parts. One, the soft side of the country's image, culture. The other one about IT and the restrictions that have been imposed. Let's take the second part first. We have a population, mashallah, of 250 million. And we have a robust middle class of 100 million people. And we have about 180 million people with smartphones or phones, and that is of connectivity. In this era, in this age, and we have about $3 billion worth of exports from freelancers, people who work on their own. Now, you are also, Munir sahab, a freelancer, I would call it, because you are using connectivity, digital technology to connect and to convey ideas. What are we doing? We are conveying ideas. We are communicating digitally, virtually. So this is a revolution in our own lifetime. Then we used to write letters. There was a postman who used to come in a bicycle when we were children, and he would send a letter, and the letter will reach after. This is a huge revolution. This is empowered people with education, empowered other people also, that you can send money through that, messages through that, videos through that. So in this day and age, for any government to clamp down or try to control or try to contain is just an act of stupidity. It's not possible. It is damaging to the national interest. It is damaging to the interest of the people of Pakistan. Because people will, then investment will not just run away. Young people will say, what will we do? If we can't have connectivity, we have to have a VPN, even to listen to Mr. Munir Ahmed and his Devcom and his message, because the internet is not working. I think this is a nonsensical approach. It shows a medieval mindset. For God's sake, Pakistan is not some Arab country or African country that we are a republic of fear. It's a huge country where people discuss, people debate, people openly express their views. And I think that is what the strength of any society is. We may have a soft state, but we have a strong society, a vibrant society, women, youth, students, boys, civil society, activists who speak up. So I think this is a no-brainer. I think there's absolutely no debate on it. It should, this kind of policy of censorship. Even I've seen General Zia's period when I was the editor of the Muslim and there was censorship. We would still say what we want to say because this is the South Asian culture. Pakistan is a product under the leadership of Quaid-e-Azam through the ballot box. We were not given a gift by the British. He emerged through a political struggle as a political leader, leading a political party, holding a referendum elections. That's how we emerged. So democracy, independent thought, expression of ideas is part of our DNA. You can't stop that. And we have seen dictatorships of any kind do that. The other issue also, so this is one of the very key elements of that. Now coming to the other issue of culture. I remember when I was Minister for Information and Culture. This was a big challenge because I was minister when we had the 50th anniversary of Pakistan in 1997. We became a nuclear power. I was the chief spokesman there. What did I do? I did three things. PTV World was the first satellite television channel of any Muslim country. We launched it so that our message could go off. Thanks to PTV World, We used to have dramas which we sent to Nepal, and the Nepalese women started wearing shalwar kameez. Culturally, the impact was there. Our dramas went to India, and they were, Varas and others. People were excited. People just say, give me the cassette of Varas or other Tanhaiya or whatever the historic place. They were there. Nepal, I saw women wearing shalwar kameez, not sarees. They said they see Pakistani plays and they like shalwar kameez. It's a good dress for women. So so you can see the cultural impact which was there. PTV World we launched. I formed a task force on cultural heritage under Mr. Hamid Haroon. Hamid Haroon, I call him the informal culture czar of Pakistan. He knew that. He brought in different cultures of Pakistan together. Like Abda Praveen was singing Sufi music in Punjabi, in Saraiki, and Pashto, and Sindhi, and Balochi, in all languages. And then we also had established a think tank. I founded IPRI, Islamabad Policy Research Institute, which is still existing. It celebrated 25 years as a rapid response think tank. Of course, some of the things should have been more activated. But I want to say one thing. I've always maintained that Bollywood is the unofficial ministry of propaganda of India. On every issue, they use Bollywood. And when 9/11 happened, President Bush sent his political advisor, Karl Rove, to Hollywood in October. It was October 7th, 2001. He had a meeting with the Hollywood executives. And he said, ladies and gentlemen, now we are at war. I want you to produce movies, dramas, serials, television, and otherwise, which will promote the war effort, promote patriotism. So this is how it is done. So these are very, very powerful instruments. And Pakistan has, I would say, not just a rich culture, but a lot of creativity, very good content that we produce originally. Our women, our men, and already we have won Oscars and other things also and developed this thing. So it's not just Sharmeen Obaid, Roy Chenoy, or Arshad Nadeem and others. Look at sports. He didn't have money, Arshad Nadeem, for a javelin, and what he has done with the Olympic Games. So I think that we have to reorient this thing. As I said, from Sarkari Sach, we should start focusing on the actual ground realities and produce ideas and movies and television serials that express the best of Pakistani creativity. And our people can do it. Perhaps the government can't, but people can do it.
Sure. Anila Khan Sabha, would you like to unmute yourself? You asked for a question. Mushahid Sahab, Anila Khan Sabha is one of the participants. She asked a question. How do you forecast the political stability in Pakistan?
In Pakistan, political stability has to be first among the political forces. They have to respect each other's mandate. They have to respect the ballot box. If Bhutto and Mujib had reached a settlement in 1970, Pakistan would not have been partitioned. India would not have exploited. If Benazir Bhutto and Mian Nawaz Sharif had reached an agreement from 1988 to 1999, there would not have been a military coup. So I think that political forces need to have rules of the game. What has been the problem? In Bangladesh, there was a rigged election on 7th of January. And the people reacted to that. In Pakistan also, the 8th February election has been a very controversial election. And we have not respected the mandate. And even despite the rigging, if they emerged with seats, those seats have been denied. The symbol has been denied. So you cannot work like that. And you're talking of national parties. Remember, we are a federation. What unites the Federation of Pakistan is the political forces, because the political parties speak above ethnic lines, above sectarian lines, above provincial lines. They unite. They have roots in all the provinces. So they are a factor for national unity. It gives me great pleasure when I see parties like, for example, the PTI, which is very strong in KP. They start their rallies with the national anthem and with the quotation of Qaid-e-Azam with the Lama Iqbal. So it unites. And similarly, other political parties, also major national parties, whether it's Muslim League or People's Party, or other national parties, they are important elements. So the first thing is rules of the game among the political forces, respect for the mandate, And if the respect for the mandate is not there, then the results will be continuous instability. Because then governments will lack legitimacy, the governments will lack credibility, and the gap between the elite and the street will widen. And that can lead to any consequences. We see what happened in Bangladesh.
Okay.
So let's learn.
Okay. Mushahid Saab, I would like to add only one sentence before respecting, before asking the political parties to respect mandate. I think the other institutions also respect the mandate of the people.
So, but the problem is, if the political parties don't respect, then they seek the interest. If you feel the road to Islamabad lies through Rawalpindi, then you don't see the road to Islamabad lies through the ballot box. That is the thing. The political parties are a product of democracy. The other institutions are subordinate to the state and the parliament of Pakistan.
That's great. That's great. Muhammad Sadiq Saab, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question or comment? Muhammad Sadiq Saab. Where is Muhammad Sadiq Saab? I don't know. Dr. Khushboo Ejaz Saiba, please go ahead.
I just want to ask about the state idea of Pakistan in the current time frame. Mushahid Saab, do you see that what are our strengths and what are the centrifugal and centripetal forces in the current scenario, keeping in view our borders that are not very, you can say, secure, and another thing that when we see our, as Zainab has mentioned, that now geoeconomic realities are more important. Do you think that our borders with Iran and with all those US sanctions going on, and we are having lots of trade from that border, and it comes under the international smuggling according to the definition of the West. So how you see our strengths or are the problems at our borders? And my first part, that how you rate our state idea. It is strong at this point of time, it is weak, or it's you can say it's just a neutral thing?
I think the idea of Pakistan as given by the Quaid-e-Azam still has a certain resonance among the people of Pakistan, because it's about the dream of building a better society and building a better future for our people. Yes, the people feel let down by their leadership, no doubt about that. And that is an area which is not just common to Pakistan, it's common in other areas. In India next door, the Gandhian vision has totally collapsed under Hindutva. So that is there. But I would also say in Pakistan, because of our democratic moorings, national cohesion is strong. There is no external, in my view, military threat to Pakistan after being a nuclear power. No, the issues are internal. They're all man-made problems. Our media revolution means that there are television channels, 50 plus independent, privately owned television channels in all languages of Pakistan, where people can say. People who were considered traitor in the past, there were allegations. You have the Bacha Khan International Airport now in Peshawar. You have the children of Abdul Samad Khan Achakzai in Balochistan running Balochistan also. So you have, you had the son of Bazinjo Saab being the minister also. So you have people who were out of the mainstream, they have become part of the mainstream. They have become important there. So, but the important challenges that we have, again, because of wrong foreign policy on Afghanistan, the extremism, that is intolerance, which is very much there. And I think the media revolution has allowed people to express their views and to think in a broader sense that these are our rights, we have to have them. So there's a gap between a strong society and a soft state. The state has become soft. The institutions of the state have become, in my view, the word in Urdu is nalaiki. There's a lot of incompetence there, Safarshi culture. And I think that people do feel that the political system at times has been captured by a small elite, as if it's only for their families and for their progeny, and not for the broader people. I think that needs to be opened up. And people, in my view, still have that emotional attachment to the idea of Pakistan, that they can build a better home. And then the core of that idea was when we built our own state separate from India, that has been vindicated. See, Hindutva has shown that ultimately the core of Indian states remains that intolerance and bigotry based on religion, unfortunately, Modi's regime has shown. And after the revolution in Bangladesh, I think a lot of other myths have also been overturned. So the historical evolution of Pakistan stands vindicated by the course of events and by history also. Thank you.
Mushahid sir, there are three questions, I think, and afterwards we shall conclude it. My question in the context of geoeconomics, the previously asked question, what hampers Pakistan to accept China's offer to mediate trade between Iran and Pakistan and Russia? And how it is possible?
George W. Bush was one of the presidents of America after 9/11. He says that leadership is a key element and it requires calcium in your backbone. Dam hona chahiye bande mein. I think sometimes the vision and the dam is lacking. Dam meaning that strength. Because if you have a policy based on fear, India buys Iranian oil. Turkey buys Iranian oil. They have no problem. Turkey is part of NATO. India is the closest ally of America. They have no. We can't even dare ask the Americans for a waiver. We have not even requested for a waiver. And you will get 40% cheaper gas from Iran. And in 12 years, your gas is going to finish. Our reserves are going to be finished in 12 years. So you have a ready-made, on a silver platter, a friendly country saying, take this gas. So that is number one. And if we don't fulfill our commitment, Iran will go to court, International Court of Arbitration in Paris. Secondly, Afghanistan. Our Afghanistan policy, Munir Sahib, has failed. It's a failure. I was editor of the Muslim in the General Zia days, and I was one of the only ones who used to oppose that so-called jihad. I said, you can't have a jihad with CIA dollars. And this is going to be fatal for us because the Americans only want to take revenge for Vietnam. And once they beat the Soviet Union, they are not interested in other things. We thought we will have capture Afghanistan, we will liberate Soviet Union, that policy. And even now, for 20 years, the Americans blamed us for playing double game, that we were giving sanctuary and support to the Afghan Taliban covertly. And when the Afghan Taliban are in power, we are now fighting with them. So I think that we should have a regional approach. Yes, terrorism is an issue. Terrorism comes from Afghanistan, not just against Pakistan, but also against China, against Iran, against Russia. Under the SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, there's an organization called RATS, Regional Anti-Terrorism System. Why don't we use that instrument? Why don't we talk to them? I think that, and with 3 of our 4 neighbors, Munir Sahib, we have barbed wire or a fence. This is the world of open borders, of trade. Okay, India, I can understand. India tried to attack us. They tried to damage us. And we gave a befitting reply after Balakot attack in 2019. And we captured the pilot and we did respond in kind. But what about Iran, Afghanistan? And then as Dr. Saba mentioned earlier about China, we gave them 2 commitments. Number 1, foolproof security. But in the last 5 years, there have been 6 attacks on Chinese project and personnel, 17 Chinese killed, including Chinese female teachers in Karachi University. And 13 Pakistani.
That's true. That's true. Muhammad Sadiq Saab has asked a question. With your recent visit to Russia, how you see Pakistan's relations with Russia? You will be going to Russia in the coming days. And how do you see, like, do you have Pakistan any room to develop any bilateral relations, trade with Russia? Or still we need more calcium in our backbone?
Actually, Mr. Sadiq is right. I recently went to Russia. I was there in July in Vladivostok. And now I'm going to Moscow on 23rd. So he's right.
Okay.
So basically, there are two countries in which foreign policy we have, what, if I may use the term local language, chaka. We have a, we have a fear. We have that one is Russia, one is Iran. Now, Russia is no longer, somebody told me, oh, you're going to Russia, you're going to a communist country. I said, what is wrong with your mind? It is no longer communist. It was communist 30 years ago. But our mind is still that Russia, communist. Although China is also communist, by the way. So, this is the mindset. And also Iran. So I think that the opportunity is there. Russia does not look at Pakistan through the lenses of India anymore. They want to develop a relationship with you. They want to cultivate close ties with you. They want to give you pipelines. They want to give you natural resources. But are we willing to take that? We bought oil last year from Russia. And after that, Mr. Munir, there was radio silence. There was no word. What happened after that one oil deal? What happened to that oil? It was cheaper. We paid in Chinese currency. We didn't buy it in the... We can save foreign exchange. Unfortunately, Sadiq Saab, there are lobbies in Islamabad. There are lobbies for the importing oil. There are lobbies for certain countries which do not want to move forward. For us, it is paramount that national interest is supreme. What benefits Pakistan and its people? That's what we should do, not what the lobbies tell you to do.
His another question is about digital terrorism coined recently in Pakistan. What is your take on it? Digital terrorism, quote unquote.
Well, I would like to have more specificity on that kind of definition. So far, the terrorism is that which kills people and which hurts people. That is the effect. Yes, there is a propaganda element also, but that digital terrorism or propaganda can be countered with facts, with logic and wisdom. So I think we have to fight on different fronts, and we should not be based on fear. If we have facts on our side, if we have wisdom on our side, if we have logic on our side, we can win that thing. Quaid-e-Azam had no army, Quaid-e-Azam had no atom bomb, Quaid-e-Azam had no establishment, Quaid-e-Azam had no big money, but he had character, commitment, competence, clarity, and he was a clean person. And he won this battle for Pakistan with ideas, with logic, with facts and wisdom. So learn from the father of the nation.
Okay. Thank you. Shabana Kulsum has asked, what is the impact of tunnel from UAE to Mumbai? Why not towards Pakistan?
There is talk of the tunnel. The tunnel has not yet been established. But the more important tunnel which we need is, Shabana Sahaba, is the Wakhan corridor. Wakhan corridor from Afghanistan to China is 50 kilometers. And they are building a road. And we should be there, Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, and Tajikistan. There is 60 kilometers of territory of the Wakhan, which separates Pakistan from Tajikistan. If we can build a road on that, we connect physically to Tajikistan and Central Asia. So you can have, shall we say, a breakfast in Lahore and lunch in Islamabad and dinner in Dushanbe, Tajikistan. That will be a miracle of the 21st century in our lifetime. This is what we should do.
There are many miracles that are happening, and we have seen so many changes over 3 decades. And I hope this could also be possible. And it would be a great idea to have.
Himmat kare aur
sir, wo calcium ke टीके लगाने पड़ेंगे. Acha, Hassan Raza Saab has asked you, sir, a question. How do you view the current state of Pakistan-India relations, especially in the light of recent remarks by the Indian External Affairs Minister, Sergi?
Hassan Raza Saab, that last week, Mr. Jaishankar, whose father was a friend of mine, by the way, Mr. K. Subramanian. He was a brilliant geostrategist, a Tamil Brahmin. And when he came to Pakistan, I hosted him. I was the editor of the Muslim newspaper those days. And he was a brilliant man. This is Jaishankar, is his son. He was in the Foreign Service. He said that the days of uninterrupted dialogue with Pakistan are over. My question is, it was a dialogue of the deaf. There was no dialogue. If you are not hearing what I'm saying, and I'm not hearing what you're saying, there is no dialogue. It's a dialogue of the deaf. We were on different tracks. So I think that on India, we can we do not have to be enthusiastic. Our leaders sent a message of congratulation to Modi ji and said, you won the election. And all. That's fine. Courtesies are there. And our foreign minister talked of trade with India in one of his first policy statements on 23rd March. I think that relationship between countries or even adversarial neighbors are based on reciprocity and equality.
Of course.
And I, as editor of The Muslim, was the first to start a track 2 with India. And we had a successful track 2. I used to write for the Indian press. The Indian journalists used to write for Pakistan. But that was a relationship on the basis of equality. And now we have nuclear parity with India. They have the bomb, we have the bomb. So there's no possibility of war. But if they try to bully and browbeat us, then we reject that diktat. Because size does not equal strength. That has been proven. Otherwise, the Americans would have won in Afghanistan, and Russians would have won in Afghanistan, and they would have wiped out Cuba. So we are very clear. And we want to live as honorable neighbors. But right now, I think the Indian mindset is based on Hindutva, which is Muslim bashing at home and Pakistan bashing outside. And we should respond accordingly.
Okay. There is another question. In your opinion, how could India pose a threat to Pakistan's CPEC projects and the peace in Balochistan? And it is linked, like whatever the Balochistan blues are, they are linked to some raw interventions over there as well, and some like it's the separatist movement in that context, and adding to CPEC. But is your take, Mushahid?
I think this question is very important. Be very clear. Yes, in Balochistan, we have made many mistakes, meaning the state of Pakistan or the provincial or federal government. That is aside from that. But there's also a great game on. It's a bigger game. India and its sponsors want to destabilize Pakistan. I call it the 3D approach. Demonize CPEC, damage Pakistan-China relations, and destabilize Balochistan. This is what they are doing. And already the Guardian reported in May 2024, if you have seen it, that the RAW, which is a part of Indian intelligence, in 4 years, they did 20 assassinations in Pakistan against Pakistanis. They are involved in state terrorism against Canadian Sikhs. They killed one of them, Niger. Then they tried to kill another one in America, and they failed. So this is part of the Indian strategy, very aggressive, very assertive. And I wish we have taken it to the International Court, to the UN Security Council, to the international councils. And apart from that, Munir Sahab, you know already that EU Disinfo Lab said there were false websites and to do propaganda. So there's full-fledged information warfare against CPEC, against Pakistan, launched by India and its patrons internationally.
Yeah, that's true. We need again another injection of calcium to go to the international court on such issues. The last comment or question by Dr. Khushboo, and then we will conclude. We have already passed our timeline, basically.
Mushahid Sahab, I just want to ask you about India, and you have very rightly pointed out that. My next question is about if there is more bad situation in Middle East and Iran in future, suppose that it will be targeted in next 1 month. And what's in that scenario? What will be Pakistan's strategic options, and how Pakistan will react to that?
Be very clear. Israel has lost the war politically, morally, legally, diplomatically, and media-wise. What the crimes they have committed. They are butchering the people of Palestine. We stand with Palestine very clearly. I think Iranians did the wise thing. The biggest trap Netanyahu set for them was they want to involve Iran in a bigger war. Because he knows that once Iran enters the war, then Netanyahu will be supported by America and the West. And that will be a trap for Iran. So Iran did the wise thing. They have not responded because then they will be alone fighting the entire Western world and Israel. But I would also say that we are very clear in our support for Palestine and for Iran, because Iran is a brotherly country. And I hope that better sense will prevail. But however, the Middle East has already been reshaped. it is unless and until there is a state of Palestine in one form or the other, there can be no lasting peace in Middle East, and unless and until Kashmir is also resolved, according to Vishal Kashmiri, there will be no lasting peace in this region. So these two issues are intertwined. Those suppressing them, India and Israel, are ideological first cousins, Modi and Netanyahu. Their mindset is the same, demographic balance being changed. And I don't foresee a bigger war in the region because Iran has other cards also. They have their proxies, Hezbollah, they have Hamas, they have Houthis, and they can also use that. I don't think Iran, with the new government that they have, and I feel that there's some lessening of tension between Iran and the US. I think the back channel is continuing, and that is why Iran has not reacted to the killing of Ismail Haniyeh. So I think that's a lot of things are happening in the Middle East, and I feel that we may be heading to lessening of tension. Even China-US tensions, there's lessening after the recent visit of the National Security Advisor of Biden, and maybe soon you will see a meeting either personally or virtually between Biden and Xi Jinping to diffuse tensions.
Thank you very much, Mushahid Hussain Sayyid Saab, for taking all these questions and taking time out to answer various types of questions that concern to our economy and geopolitical positioning, and also vis-a-vis relationship with the neighboring countries. And with this, and I also thank you, Dr. Khushboo Ejaz Saiba and Dr. Zainab, and all the participants, those who attended this webinar with this. And I hope you will also be able to join our next week's webinar. Thank you all for being with us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khushboo, Dr. Zainab, and Munir Saab, and all the distinguished viewers and listeners who were there. Thank you so much for your questions. All the best. Thank you. Khuda Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz.